In the last program, we'll take a look at while control structure, a while loop repetition control structure, and we have seen how the while looping control structure works. Now, in this lecture, we are going to take a look at a do while loop, which is very much similar and in some way different from the while loop control structure. Now, the do while loop differs with while loop in the sense that an action, a statement, is guaranteed to be executed at least once before testing the condition. So unlike a while loop where a condition is being tested, and if the condition evaluated true, then some statement are being executed. In do while loop, some statement or some statement are being executed first, and then now a condition is being tested to see whether to continue with the looping or to stop it. All right, and to illustrate to see how this do while loop works, we are going to make use of this program. We are going to create a program that will use a while loop to calculate the average of scores using the do while looping control structure. So let's start. So the first thing that we are going to do, as we have been doing as usual, we are going to import our libraries. So I'm going to write import libraries. And then to import libraries, we are going to make use of our hash include stdio.h. So hash include stdio, our standard input output header file. All right, so we have imported this header file. Now we declare our function main int int main, then void, then we declare open our braces. All right, perfect. So now we are going to prompt the user to enter the number of students. So we don't know the number of students, and we know that each student will represent a score. Each student will have a score. So for us to know the number of students whose average scores we want to calculate, we have to know the number of the student first. So I'm going to and then let's declare a variable student number, and we know that it's going to be integer since we don't have 1.5 students. So int student number. So int student number, or number of students. Let me call it number of students. Number of students. All right, so now we have number of students. So we are going to now prompt. Okay, so let me make a comment. As always a good practice to document our program with comment. So I'm going to put a comment. So variables declaration, variables. What I'm doing is variables declaration. All right, so next I'm going to now prompt the user to enter a score. So I'm going to say enter the number, okay, not score, a number of students. Enter the number of students. Enter the number of students. So now from the user for an input, prompt from the user for an input. So after prompting the user for an input, now we are going to now get the input and make it available to our program using scanf. Now get the input. Get the input. So now we are going to make use of scanf, and then since number of students has been declared as integer, we are going to make use of a format specifier for an integer, which is this symbol, the module symbol, and then D for decimal integer. Then we are going to specify a location. We're going to point to the location in the memory that has been named number of students using a pointer address. So we are going to make use of that. I said number of students. And then as usual, put our statement terminator to end the statement. Okay, so now we have gotten the number of students. Next, I'm going to declare our do while looping structure. So I'm going to write do, and then we are going to have braces. We are going to put our statement, and then at the end we are going to test the condition. So while, and then we are going to have a parenthesis to test the condition. But unlike the other while, in the default while that we have seen earlier, in this while, after adding the while and then followed by the parenthesis where we are going to input our condition, we are going to follow it by a statement terminator here. So I'll have to add a statement terminator here. So this is also one difference between the do while and the while looping structure. Okay, so after entering here, we are going to print the we are going to prompt the user to enter a school so that we can get the school and add the school. So for that, I'm going to go and declare a variable here. We are going to declare a variable school, and a school, we know that school can be a floating point number, like 20. A student can have 50.6 as his school. So I'm going to declare school variable as a floating point number. So I'm going to say plot school. Okay, so now I'm going to also declare another variable, total school, to keep track of the scores. So that I'm going this total school variable, I will use it to keep track, to submit the scores. All right, so I'm going to have another variable here. I'm going to also declare it as plot, and then I'm going to call it total school. Total school. All right, so now I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to prompt the user for a school. So prompt the user for a school. So prompt the user for a school. So now I'm going to have print format, enter a school. So now the user is going to enter a school, and now I'm going to get the school using my scan F. So get the school. So I'm going to make use of scan F. Okay, and I've declared school as a floating point number, so I have to make use of a format specifier for a school, which is this modulus sign followed by a F, which stands for a floating point number, and then the school variable, a pointer pointing to the address where that school has been created in the memory. So school. Right, so now we have gotten the school. We have prompted the user to enter school. We have gotten the school. Now we are going to increment our total school counter. We are going to keep track of that school that we have gotten from the user, so that at the end we are going to make use of that to calculate the average. So I'm going to say total school equals to school. Yes, equals to total school, and then add school to it. So I have to go off there, and then after declaring school, I have to initialize it with the value 0. So I have to initialize it with the value 0. Okay, so that at this point here it is 0, and then when we enter the do while loop, now it's going to have some values. So whatsoever the user has entered as school here, we are going to add it to 0. So let's say the user has entered 100, so now it's going to be total school, which is total school, and then we are adding total school. We know the value of total school at this point is 0, so 0 plus 100, so the total school is now 100. All right, so now the next thing we are going to do, we are also going to increment the student counter. Okay, so I have to go up there and then create another variable. I'm going to call it student counter to keep track of the number of the students, since we know that each school is going to represent one student. So I'll create another variable, and I'm going to declare it as int, because we can't have 1.5 students. We can only have a whole number as a student, so we can't have 2.5 students. All right, so I'm going to declare it as int, and then I'm going to call it student counter. Student counter, and then also I'm going to declare it with the value 0. So at this point it has the value 0. Then I'll go down, and then I'm going to increment the student counter, since we know that each school represents a student. So I'm going to say student counter, and then I'm going to, because assigned with student counter, and then increment it by 1. Alternatively, I can use this shorthand way of expressing this. Instead of writing total score like this, I can have it as total score is total score plus score, and then score. Also, this one I can also write it this way, plus 1. All right, so now we have this. So now the next thing we are going to do, now we are going to now test our condition, make sure that we have not exceeded the number of the student. So I'll come here within this while and then have my condition. Since we just want to calculate the scores for the number of the student that the user has entered initially at the beginning of the program, so we have to make sure that student counter is less than or equal to the number of students. So if the user has entered 10 students, so we just want to calculate the the sum of scores for only 10 students. So this loop will continue looping, get the number of students until we have gotten the required number of students. So once we have calculated the required number of students, then the program will stop. The while loop will stop looping, and then we can now be able to calculate the average. So next, we are going to calculate the average by declare. So I have to go off and redeclare another variable, and then I'm going to call it average. So I'm going to declare it as floating point because an average can be a floating point, and then let me call it average, float average. Then I'm going to go down and then see my average. The scores is we know that average is calculated as summation divided by number of entities whose average we want to calculate. So it's going to be total score, since we want to calculate the average of score, divided by the number of students. Now here in this case, we can make use of student counter of number of students, since student counter represents the number of the students or number of students, each one that we like. So let me make use of student counter, counter. And then now, after calculating the average, we can conveniently print it out. And then so we can print it out, print format. So we can give the sum, the total score, and the average. So we can see the sum of the scores for this number of students. So for number of students, let me make use of this format control string. Number of students has been declared as integer. So the sum of scores for number of students is, so the sum of scores, also so the scores we have declared the total score as decimal integer. No, is it decimal integer? It's floating point number. Let me go off. Total score has been declared as a floating point. So and then the sum of scores, so the sum of scores for is okay, and the average. So we can just output everything in one line, and the average is, then we are going to have the average floating point. All right, so here we are saying the sum of scores for number of students is this sum, and the average is those, then the average, we give the average. So I'm going to put this. I'm going to have the scores, D for the decimal integer to represent the decimal integer with the sum of the scores for the scores. So let me go off scores. Scores. We have declared scores, total scores, total score. So total score, then followed by the sum of the scores for is the sum of scores per number of students. Okay, let me add students here so to make it more clear. For these students. So here is supposed to be number of student or student counter, anyone. So let me make use of number of students here. Is for 50 students, say is 50 students for 50 students. If then we have this total score, then followed by the average. All right. So and then now we can be able to output this out. All right. So and then this is and main. All right. So now let's go and compile it and then print it out. And if there is any error, then we'll come back and fix the error. So I'm going to go to the terminal. I'll close this. All right. Going to go to the terminal. Then I'm going to have this. I'm going to navigate to that directory where I have that cd desktop Phoenix, and then we have C, and then we have lectures. All right, so this is where I have this particular file, and then I'm going to compile it. GCC. The name of the something is do while .c, and then I'm going to output it as do while. I'm going to do away with this, and then I'm going to hit enter. So I have an error here. And school expected expression EI. Okay, so this is I'm supposed to have this. This is C, not Python. So I'm going to have this expression. I'm going to put this modulus sign again, and then I can embed this within parentheses. Let me add a parenthesis to improve the clarity of the program. All right. Okay. So yes. So now let's go back again and recompile it, the program, and then if there is any error, come back and fix the error again. So all right, total school, and it's telling us invalid apparent to binary and have char and float. And okay, so what is the issue? School scan f school. Okay, line number 38. So let me go to line number 38. Seems to be an issue there. Line number 38. Line number, okay, so it is not the sign, it's ampersand. Okay, so it's ampersand. So let me go back again. Okay, and then calculate. Okay, also this is the way it is, because Python and C, they're having similar structures. I'm mixing the two off sometimes. I thought that this is where we should have this, so let me do away with this. I'll put my comma, and then let me do away with this, something that I added there, and that. Okay, so I need to remove that redundant parentheses that I added. Okay, so let's go and recompile it and then see. So let me create a terminal. Scan F and undefined reference to scan. Okay, scan F, scan format, line number 38, line number 38, line number 38, line scan F. The name of the function is scan format, not scan. So let me go back again and then clear the screen. Okay, perfect. So our program has successfully compiled. So now we can run it, and then to run it, I'm just going to add / as we've been doing before. Do while, and then hit enter. So let's start with a lesser number of students. Enter the number of students. Let me enter 3 students. Enter the score for the first student. Let's say the first student has score 2. Next student has score 3, and then the other student has score 2 as well. Enter a score, and then we are going to have 4. So we need to fix our program, because actually our program is supposed to ask for only 3 number of students, not 4 number of students. So that is the difference between while and do while. So if it were while, that condition will have been okay, but this is while, and while will guarantee execution. It will first of all execute the statement before testing the condition. That is why we are having 1 extra input of score, instead of we are required to enter 4 scores instead of 3. So instead of expressing the condition as less than or equal to, I'm going to make it strictly less than. Okay, so I'm going to make it strictly less than, and then now this will fix the issue. So that I'll now go back, and then I'm going to clear this terminal, and then run the program. Now how to recompile it again. So I'm going to recompile it, and then I'm going to no. Okay, so let me go back. Do while, and then run the program. Enter the number of students, 3 students. Enter the score 2. Enter the student 3, 2. Okay, so we have the sum of the scores for 3 students is 7, and the average is those 2.333. All right. So we can still improve this our program. Instead of having 7, let's have just 2 places of decimal, 2 places of decimal here, as well as we did in all our previous programs. All right. So let me go off here, and I'm going to add for the decimal integer. So for here, for the floating point number, I'm going to have just 2 places of decimal, and also in the average, 2 places of decimal. Okay, so we have this. Now also in the after entering the score, okay, before printing this out, I want it to give me a line, skip 1 line, then print out the results. So now I've saved it. Now I'm going to go back again, and then I'm going to recompile it, and then run the program again. Enter the number of student 3. Enter this 2, 3, 2. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, the sum of the scores for 3 students is 7.00, and the average is thus 2.33. So as we can see, our program is working perfectly. So let's go back and review what we did, the code that we inputted. So basically what we did, here we declare our variables. We have been doing this before. We have int variable, number of students, and then score we declare as plot. And then next, in line number 23, we prompt for an input. And then in line number 27, we get the input. And then we have our do while looping control structure. Now we say that do, first of all, it guarantees the execution of the statement at least once. So even if this condition happens to fails, student counter, it will still execute. So even if the condition fails, let's say we are importing for 0 number of students. So we declare the number of students as 0, but it will still prompt for a score. And to see that, let me go back to the terminal. I'll run this program and see. Instead, I'm going to tell the program that I'm going to enter a 0 number of students. Enter the number of students 0, but it will still prompt for an input. Since 0 means no student, but it's still prompting for an input. But unlike it were while, it is going to test the condition, and it will not prompt us for an input. So enter a scope. I'm going to enter, let me enter this as 0. So there is 0, and because the condition fails, and it instantly gives us the results. Sum of scores for 0 student is 0, and the average is those 0.00. So in our program, we can do some error handling issue. We can ask the program, we can tell the program that if the number of students has been entered is 0, the program should do nothing, the program should exit. We can add that, but we are in this program. You can do that as your as an exercise, but we are not doing it here. But as an error checking technique, we can check to make sure that the user did not enter 0. But this is all like while, because it were while is going to check the condition, but in do while, the checking of the condition happens after the statement in the do while loop body has been executed. So after the statement has been executed here first, before it will come and test what the looping for the looping condition, for the looping evaluation condition. So now, and then in line number 46, we calculated the average, and then we finally outputted the average in line number 48.